Welcome to the Sunday Superversive Livestream. I am your host, Benjamin Wheeler, and I'm not here with my co host, the man, the big cheese, the infinitely long spaghetti, Anthony Marchetta, uh, who is entirely, I don't know if you've seen the John Rod meme, which has taken the JoJo community by storm last couple weeks. But he's exactly like that, except made of spaghetti. I hope this makes it clear. I hope this makes it clear for you, for you. Yeah, that's right. So, what am I talking about today? It's a variety show, so it's going to be whatever I kind of want to talk about. But I do want to talk about a few things, uh, namely, mm, kind of about like, oh, hold on, it's the man made of spaghetti himself, Anthony Marchetta.
Sorry about that, Ben. For some
Ah,
reason, my
ah,
Discord did not
ah,
update me.
ah. Okay, hold on. Something's up with your mic, and you were super loud.
How about now?
Yep, that's good.
Yeah, for whatever reason, my Discord did not update me that you had sent the link, so I was waiting on it, and then the show popped up, and I went, "Oh, the link's probably there, huh?"
It's been doing that to me too, actually. Sometimes it'll like update me, and my phone will ping me. I'll look, and there'll be just nothing, and then it's like, oh, Anthony messaged me. I don't like that. I don't like that the modern world isn't working exactly like how I've been expecting it to work. Uh, it's completely
Yes.
nonsensical. It's completely nonsensical, Anthony. Like, why? Anyway, so it's a variety show. Uh, I made some claims about your bodily composition being a pasta.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
You're correct.
yeah, I was just trying to think of something else that I could slander Italians with, but I think I think I've done it all. I think I've done it all, Anthony.
I've hit everything.
I've hit everything. uh,
Amazing.
uh, but yeah, we're working on a lot of projects actually, which is kind of nice. We are going through schooling and we're doing the family stuff, and we've got projects, and we talked about Sir Balin and uh, uh, Sir Ballin, Shut Up and Jam. That's what I'm going to call it. Screw this Savage Night PS.
You're
It's called
balling.
Shut Up and Jam, Sir Ballin's
Shut up and
story.
jam.
Uh, but I'm also working on a short story in the Roanoke Paranormal Pinkertons universe. I always try to do one story a season where Jack is the main villain. Usually not because of any fault of his own. The dude's very weak to psychic damage. Practically an open murderous book. Um, but also, I know Anthony, you started on Tristan and Isolde,
Yep.
Lion of
Lion of
Cornwall,
Cornwall is the title.
and I also wanted to pick your brain about the absolutely heroic effort you put out, dumping tens of thousands of applications on everyone all the time, using AI as it
Yeah.
should be.
Yes. So there's genuine, beyond the memes, there's genuine stuff to talk about in terms of strategy. So
Yeah,
uh the first thing I will say is I am nothing if not consistent. I have said this for years, argued with people on Twitter about it. I remember I was going back and forth, and I'm going to say the name because I'm not saying this in a negative way. Like, I'm just saying it in a factual way. I have nothing negative to say, but
right.
going back and forth with Misha Burnett about it, who didn't agree with me, um,
Yeah,
and a few
good
other
friend of the
people, which
show. We love him.
respectfully, like, again, this
Yeah,
is not in a nasty disagreement, but um, basically, my opinion. So I'm being very consistent in my approach. My opinion of the publishing industry is that when you look at the numbers for publication, they are very skewed in favor of the publishers. They are not skewed in
yep.
favor of the authors. Now, what does that mean exactly? It doesn't mean the publishers are the ones who are making the money. They're not making money, actually. It's a
Sh-
very
yeah.
it's a field where very few people are making money.
Like
Now,
whenever
there
you
is a
hear
way
about
to do it.
whenever you hear about Scheinman and Schuster and all those big paychecks for the Scheinman and Schuster books, like 3/4 of them are payoffs, and they had to dial things back when U.S. aid stopped. Like it's,
Oh
it
yeah, I
was
could
it
go on
wasn't what
about
you
that
think.
too, but
Yeah,
that's entirely besides the point, right?
yeah.
So anyway, yeah, like that's a whole separate discussion. I've
I'm
done
just
some
I'm just
research
bringing
into
it
that
up so
as
no
well.
one else brings it up, basically.
Hmm. So leaving trad pub aside, which it's its own can of worms. Um, so here's the thing about the publishing industry. It's not a like it's a numbers game where the numbers are in favor of the publisher, but not in terms of like who gets money. No one's getting money in reality. There is a way to make money, and the way to make money is to make yourself a brand.
Yeah,
Uh, like, and I don't mean this like that probably sounds cynical. I'm not being cynical. I think like genuinely if I had the will to do it, I would be like it would be something that I wouldn't have like a moral issue with or anything. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
Um I just don't particularly want to, right? Um
Right.
but not for like a more, not like oh it's beneath me or whatever. It just seems like it's a hard thing, right? It's difficult. It takes a lot of time and effort and money, and then it puts you in a particular position, right? John
Yep.
Delarose did this successfully. um and it is like, as far as I can tell, it is replicable. Like people have done it,
Yeah.
so okay, but most people aren't doing that. Most publishers aren't even able to do that anymore. So like, and you can make the argument probably correctly that publishing is not really a profitable model anymore, right?
Right.
So okay, what do you do if you're in the position of the author in this case? Well, one thing that you could do, of course, is just sell the book yourself. This has issues. Issue number one, and the big one, is you got to pay for an adder. One thing that I
Yep.
agree with everyone about: your book needs to be edited. You have to edit it. There is no way around this. Like, it's just not. I would not respect somebody, frankly, right? Like who didn't put out their book with an editor. Even like a John C. Wright, you need an editor for a full length book.
Yep.
Uh, so that's one problem, and they can get fairly expensive. At the low end, I looked into this recently. At the low end, for the length of books that I write, which are fairly short, uh, you're looking at like $800, right?
Yep.
Um, and then and then even like for mid range, you're in 1,000 to 1,200. Uh, So that's not cheap, right?
Yep.
And then the second thing that you need, and it's another one that is if you're trying to sell your book, is a non negotiable, is a cover. Once again,
Mm-hmm.
wildly variable in terms of quality, but let's ballpark it at 500, right?
Right.
Uh, this alone is a huge expense. And as much as like, and this is again where I have disagreed with some people who are like, oh, you should just hire, you got to hire an ad or you'll make the money back. Number one is there is no guarantee you'll make that money back, right?
Yep.
And number two, there just isn't. Like, as much as they want to, frankly, that's marketing guff. That's what they're
Yeah.
saying because they're trying to sell you a product.
Editors tell you that. You know what I mean?
Right. I'm not saying they're lying, but also I'm not saying they're lying in the same way that I'm not saying that, like, anybody saying, "Hey, my corn chips are the best in the world," right?
Right.
Yeah, same idea. Um, and they would probably say that the reason that you didn't sell is that you did something wrong, which might be true, right? But um,
Right.
okay. And then the other problem, of course, which is the bigger problem as far as I'm concerned, is I don't have the money to put up, right? I'm
Yeah.
paycheck to paycheck. So are you, if worse than that, Uh,
Worse.
yes. Uh, you and me both, buddy. Uh, yeah. So I don't have that money to put up. There is no like invisible loan that I could stick in. Well, you want me to fucking go in debt for my book? That's not how this works. It's not how that's gonna work, right?
I'm up to my
Uh,
ears in burrito futures already.
mhm. So that's where the publisher comes in. And to me, the reason that I'm looking at publishers against, like, John Delarose, like, you should just put the book up, right? Um, The reason I'm looking at publishers, specifically indie publishers, because they could offer me two things primarily and a third thing secondarily. Number one, an editor. Number two, a cover. And number three, and secondarily, marketing. Formatting, I don't really consider to be, frankly, a benefit of publishers anymore because it's just so easy to do. Um, it's gotten even easier with LLMs. Like you can have the LLM do it if you really wanted to, but not that you even need to. It's just not that hard, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, it's like I do it for friends cheaply, and it's like, yeah, okay, send me $100. I'll format this. If you want to make changes, I'll make changes real quick for you and send it back. You know what I mean? Like
mhm.
it's not an expense you need to worry about, and all publishers should have somebody who just does it.
Exactly. The formatting is not the thing. Now, more interesting, covers are important, and there's something that the publisher provides, and editors are important, and there's something that the publisher provides. So I made the decision that I am going to try and get my novel, Son of Orkney, published, right? After Camelot as well. Now, After Camelot was in a little bit of a different position because I was trying to market it as a novel, but I was marketing it as a novel, like mostly for like marketing purposes, right? In reality, it's a themed anthology. I knew this. Um, Now I do think that as an anthology, it is better read together. Um, and I think that it benefits from that. Nevertheless, like every chapter is standalone, you know, like as much as I would like to pretend otherwise, you know. So when I got like the first publisher that decided they would take it on, and they were also a thematic fit, DNS Publications, I was like, yeah, 100%, because anthologies are even harder to sell than novels. Like a publisher's picking
Yep.
that up, I'm taking it, you know. And they're offering me an editor, they got me a cover that I think is really cool looking, right? Um Great, I'm in.
Oh yeah, it's great.
You know,
It's good stuff.
so I got no regrets with them. Yeah, they're slow because it's, you know, literally nuns who are doing it in their spare time, right? But whatever. Like DNS Publications was never going. It was always going to be kind of a hard. After Camelot was always going to be kind of a hard sell anyway. So, like, I'm willing to be patient. Son of Orkney's a little bit different though, right? Um, on the positive end, it is very character focused, very plot driven, paced very quickly, and has a very sturdy narrative, right? Beginning, middle, end, you know, with a very clear arc. On the negative end, it is short for what publishers look for in fantasy novels. I am a big believer, I'm a very big believer in this. I do not force length. A story should be as long as it needs to be and no longer. Uh, I'm very in favor of big books if the book should be big, right? I think that they should exist, but I think in fantasy especially, we have an epidemic of exceptionally long books that could be cut by like 50% and would lose nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a huge believer, and it's also just my style generally. Like a lot of people when they do rewrites and things, they struggle with like they need to cut out a bunch of stuff. I generally don't. I normally need to add things. Um it's just a stylistic difference. It doesn't really mean anything, but it's interesting. So Son of Orkney ran short. It's like 55,000 words. 55,000 words is novel length. That's the good news. 50,000 is generally considered the cutoff for a short novel. Uh, but the downside is most publishers for fantasy novels, especially, try and look for at least 60,000, and 100,000 tends to be more the norm. So it's definitely workable, but it's not in the golden zone, right?
Well, it's like there's an expectation of size, even beyond length. You know, you want it to look good on your shelf, but it's also like it used to be the norm. You know, John Del Rose was talking about this actually, where he was like showing off some of the fantasy novels, some of which I've got around here, but it was like 50,000. Like I don't think people understand just how fast like old fantasies and sci-fi's are paced. Like things like the Lensman series, stupid fast. It's practically Whiplash. Other series that may seem slow, like Worm or Ouroboros, are actually incredibly dense. So a lot is happening, and anyway, with the pacing slowed down for what's important. But it's like, if you look at the length, if you look at this, yeah, sure, sure, sure. But also, back in the day, the 50,000 word novel was fairly normal.
Yep. And it's a little bit of a two-edged sword because on one hand, I feel like we need more shorter and more longer novels, if as weird as that sounds. Like what I mean is I saw somebody was talking about this. There's a YouTube channel like Pen and Poison or something, I think they might be called. They're an interesting channel because it's like a girl who was a literature major at like Columbia University and quit because they were basically not talking about literature, right? Like they were just concerned with identity politics, you know. Um, and she brought this up that like a lot of the great works of like classic literature, you get like Moby Dick, War and Peace, Crime and Punishment, The Brothers Karamazov, right? Don Quixote even are really, really, really long. And we kind of stopped writing those. And she's like, and that's because publishers don't want them, right? But she's like, we've lost something. And I agree with that as well. I think what's happened is we're stuck in this weird spot where like publishers have very specific ideas of what works for certain genres and they're not considering things outside of those limits, and
Yeah.
it's very odd. And
Well,
fantasy especially skews long because of Martin and
yeah.
Sanderson.
Yeah, and it's like, with like Don Quixote and War and Peace and stuff like that. Yeah, okay, you could be like, I don't know if this conversation is good. Well, no, it's all part of the same thing. With Don Quixote, it's about a guy wandering around in Spain having adventures and stuff like that. Like he's not there to kill the Dark Lord or whatever. He's being along for his farcical adventures is the plot. As much as anything else.
Yep, yep. And if you get like Crime and Punishment is an extremely tightly paced novel. In fact, I would say the reason that Crime and Punishment is so long, it's a fairly long book. I don't know how many words, but it was like 500 something
Gambling
pages.
debts.
What was that?
Gambling debts.
Gambling, that's true. I mean, like, yeah, actually, but no, but I think novelistically, like, why it's so long. One of the reasons that Crime and Punishment is so long is because Dostoevsky, like, the whole point of Crime and Punishment is that we are going through the hyper detailed, like, minutia of Raskolnikov's mind in the book, right? And that's the entire
Right.
point of the work, right? Psychologically, how is this affecting Raskolnikov and how is he dealing with what just happened? And, like, it's important to then, like, you can't really skip things because it's all about how he basically unravels over the course of the book, right?
Yeah. Like its focus is like, how do I want to put it? Like, people like to talk about, oh, I'm having a breakdown. This, oh, there's such a descriptive panic attack or whatever. It's like, yeah, but those don't come out of nowhere. Like, your misery in life is itself the misery in life. It starts when you get up in the morning, when you have breakfast, when you have a panic attack about your breakfast. Like it's a whole thing.
Hmm. So, but yeah, this is all a tangent going off of like why I'm doing the publishing thing, right? So, all of this is to say that I have a very clear reason why I want to look for a publisher, right? I want an editor, I want a cover, and then the third lesser thing is it would be nice if they had some channels for marketing. With that said, that's not as important, especially with the advent of Amazon. And a lot of the publishers like don't because they're small publishers, and I don't, I'm not going to lose sleep over that because most sales are going to come from Amazon anyway, right? And if sales are going to go to
Yeah.
bookstores, it's probably going to be because I'm selling them to the bookstore, and I could do that either way.
Yeah.
So it's fine. Um, but then it becomes the numbers game, and that's where it turns into like, so what percentage of books actually get picked up by publishers? It's very hard to find concrete numbers on this because you would need to do some sort of poll of all of the publishers, right? However, just going by what the publishers themselves say, we're probably, I would have to estimate somewhere between 0.2 to 0.5%, right, of all submissions end up going for getting a deal, right? So those numbers are not very favorable to you, the writer. Um, their favorite, the publisher is essentially incentivized to say no. You got to convince them to say yes. So if you're in my position, what do you do? Well, if I were looking for a publisher that I wanted to be like, oh, this is going to explode my career, then I would fine tune for that for specific publishers, right? Um, but there's a big problem with that. In fact, there are two. Problem number one is that no matter how much I fine tune, if they turn it down, almost every publisher in the industry will not let you resubmit, right? You submit once and they go like, yeah, we're not interested. The only exceptions are if they ask you to. So you can't just like keep fine tuning until they say yes. It's not going to work that way. And then problem number two, uh, is that if a publisher is really good, then it's also going to be really difficult to get into. And by the way, I haven't even spoken about literary agents. Fuck literary agents. All my homies hate literary agents. Uh, I do not respect them. They don't do anything. I was having
I
an
once,
argument with my family
yeah.
about this. They were like, "Oh, it makes sense for big publishers." I'm like, "What do they fucking do? What do they do that I can't do?" Nothing. Nothing. They're like, well, what about like it's like a realtor going to sell a house and doing like the negotiating for you? I said, bullshit. They say it a little computer. They fucking. I'm done. Okay. No, I hate it. I hate literary agents. I
That's
hate that they
reasonable.
exist as a model. I hate that like they've become the norm. They shouldn't exist.
It's true. I once hunted a literary agent in 2016 Dragon Con. It was great. He was Tor related. They became unusually uncomfortable with my attention. I don't know. I think it was them.
Nice.
Listen, like every single thing has a parasite class. Everything has a parasite class, and I'm using Marxist terms, but you have to understand. Like, if you know what the parasite class is, making sure they're either one working for you and not like trying to screw you over, which they're trying to screw you over, but more loyal to you than the other guy. And two, if you can get around them, just get around them with, without, if you can't, if you won't be punished for it. Like, if you're going to get some cement shoes, maybe don't do that. But the thing is that like you can always end run around agents. Any publisher that goes, I only work with agents, basically says, if I don't know you, I'm not going to work with you. That's actually all it means. And those people have names and addresses. You can meet them in Starbucks, start a friendship, gaslight them into accepting you.
Yes.
It's easy. You just have to spend 3 months.
You just have to stalk them. What? Um. No, but Go, yeah, and that also is the other problem. By the way, I am not. I mean, you can't pursue the trad pub right without a literary agent, and I have no interest in pursuing trad pub. Trad pub as not as a model, is just a bad deal for everyone. Right? There is no reason to ever pursue trad pub. Uh, like there's literally never a reason because this is the problem. They will take more of your money because literary agents are going to take a cut and the publisher is going to take a cut. But you won't get increased sale. You won't get any advantages that you would get out of indie publishers.
Yep.
What? They'll fucking go through like Simon and Schuster and sell to stores, right? But the problem with this is that it doesn't actually translate to sales. Like people think it does, and it does not. Remember that conversation about publishers we were going to have earlier? We're having it.
Yep.
This is that time. Okay, so this is the actual way the trad club industry works. And I know this. I have actually like researched this. I've seen articles, I've seen studies, I've seen things. What you are to a trad club, to the trad club is a lottery ticket, right? And nothing more. And that is how much they are going to invest in you. The amount of time and money that they would invest in buying a lottery ticket, right? They'll definitely check to see if they won, and they'll give you a little bit just, to purchase the ticket. So you're worth the purchase, but you're not worth anything else to them. So if you think now I'm with a traditional publisher, I'm going to get marketed, you are very wrong. You will not. Um, if you think that it's going to mean something that you were published by them, that it's also not true. It really does not, right? It doesn't mean anything. Nobody will
Yep.
notice. You won't get a special spot in the bookstore. Bookstores might stock you for a couple weeks, right? Before they drop you, and they might stop, and they'll probably stock you in the back. If you want to market the book, you're marketing the book. Um, Now, why do TradPub do this? Well, from their perspective, it doesn't actually take a lot of money to publish a book. So what they do is they purchase you the lottery ticket, and then they throw you out there. And if you are a hit, great. Congratulations. You've now become one of the cash cows, right? All of a sudden, they're going to throw the marketing budget behind you, and you're going to do great. But this is not something that they will do for your first book, or even probably your second, right? Um, However, if you don't get if the lottery ticket doesn't hit, those numbers don't come up 5 in a row, they will just ignore you and drop you, and you won't make anything. Trad Club literally doesn't offer anything that indie publishing or self publishing doesn't offer, except they take more of your money. Uh, the only thing that the only reason it might be worth it is if you think you're going to hit the lottery ticket and then become one of Trad Club's cash cows. And even then, as Brandon Sanderson's proving, that's not always the right thing to do. Like if you're going to become a cash cow anyway, why not just go through Kickstarter and keep all your own money? Like Trad Club is a scam. It's not worth it. It's just not. They take forever. They take most of your money, and they don't support you. Indie publishing will give you as much as Trad Club does, basically, but they will take less of your money. And self publishing, of course, you keep all of it. It is better to self publish than Trad Club every time.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm not considering TradPub, right? So I'm like, okay, well, I want specific things, and the specific things I want are going to be offered by almost all indie publishers, right? So therefore, as long as an indie publisher takes my book, um, it's probably worth submitting to them, right? Because they'll probably give me a cover, and they'll probably give me an editor. And those are the two things that I really can't do on my own, right? So I used an LLM to look this up, because that's because Google is broken. Uh, I use a submission grinder too, which is great, but um, mostly an LLM. And I found every single publisher I possibly could that was accepting manuscripts that could theoretically fit Son of Orkney. And I submitted to 100 of them. I won't even say all of them. There are probably a few still out there that I could submit to. But once I
Yeah.
got to like 40, and I kept looking, and I got to like 80, and then once I got to 80, I said, well, now at this point I got to go for 100, right? Um and then after I had 100 in live submissions, it was out of like 106 total submissions. I had 100 live because there were a few that bounced and a couple who rejected quickly. And Son of Orkney is now out with currently 95 publishers. Two of them have advanced to the next level. Mount Zion Ridge Press took the proposal, then asked for the first 3 chapters, last 3 chapters, and a detailed synopsis. So that's a positive movement. And what was it called? Howl Books? I think I might have it wrong. Holland Books. Yeah. They're an odd one. I submitted to a company called Sharp Books, and they turned me down. But the guy who wrote the email said, "Hey, we have a book publishing company for new writers called Holland Books. You should submit to them. We're a traditional royalty paying publisher. Use my name and tell them I referred you. We'll get back to you in a week." So that's 2 positive movements in a pretty short time, which is not bad. Um, Now, there have been hitches. One of the big things, the reason that this approach is generally not recommended, I realize after I did it, is not so much because the numbers are wrong. The numbers are not wrong. I'm maximizing my chances, right? Um, the reason it's not recommended is that sometimes you get feedback, and if you get the feedback, you can't actually implement the feedback if you've already submitted to all 100 publishers at once, right? And one of the pieces of feedback I got was a very unfortunate piece of feedback because it was about one of like the most forward facing parts of the book. So a little bit of the backstory with Son of Orkney is that the original chapter 1 of Son of Orkney was like a backstory chapter where Gawain arrives to on the Orkney Islands as a war hero, and he greets the family. And that was just chapter 1, and they introduce the family, right? And in chapter 2, they're at a very tense family dinner and things, and it kind of kicks off the conflict a little more properly. So I finished the book. I immediately was like, I could probably incorporate the important stuff from chapter 1 into backstory in chapter 2. Um, and got rid of chapter 1 completely, cannibalized a little bit of it for use in chapter 2, and then started the book with chapter 2. And then I went, great, that problem is solved. It starts off with the conflict. Um, can't do better than that. Well, several of the publishers that I'll say two publishers got back to me and specifically said that the opening was too slow. And I immediately figured out why. It's because I had incorporated some of the backstory and character descriptions and location descriptions from chapter 1 and like inserted it into the middle of chapter 2, and it slowed down the conflict too much. Like it paused what was happening to like describe people, you know. So I fixed it, but I had already sent out all of the publications, and that's bad because now I know that they all have the bad chapter 1, right? And chapter 1's an especially bad thing for it to be the problem for that reason. You know. So I did email a bunch of them with the new chapter 1.
Sorry, keep going.
No, it's pretty funny. Uh Mount Zion Ridge Press actually acknowledged that they got the new one, so that's nice. Um, but a bunch of the others I'm kind of disappointed about. Like one of there are the whales, which are like this would be a huge win. I would love to get published by them. The big one is Word on Fire Luminor Press. So Word on Fire is really, really, really big in the Catholic publishing sphere. Like they work with the church. It's run by Bishop Barron. Uh, they're really good. Uh, I would, and they just put out a new press called Luminor Press that was specifically like for fantasy, where they accept unsolicited works for new writers. I would love to get picked by them. I won't. They're probably way too selective. Um, odds are very low. Nevertheless, I did my best, but they have the bad chapter 1. I emailed, and they have a submission form, which makes it even worse. I can't even email it properly. I did email like an editor with the new chapter 1, but nobody responded to me, which can't be a good sign. Uh, so that's not good. Uh, Atheon Books or Athon Books. Uh, that's the other one that I would really, really love to get to get their. They publish a ton of fantasy. They have a huge fan base. They're very active, right? Uh, I'd love to and they have some Camelot stuff in the backlog. I'd love to get published by Athon. Again, I had to send them like the new updated book.
I'm sure it happens all the time.
It probably doesn't. Um, I would imagine that probably most people don't send updates. They probably are just like, oh, I guess I didn't make it. This just sit badly with me though, because like I knew that the new opening chapters were better, and I also knew that most of the people who some of them only got proposals and query letters, but of the ones that saw opening chapters, they all saw like the bad opening chapter that I knew was not that good.
It
Um,
was fine.
it was fine.
What are you gonna
I,
do? Just start it in the middle where like Garrison a field and he's having a fight. Smash cut. 1 year and like 3 weeks before. Bullshit. That's a bullshit literary move to create
What's the
false
Rick and
interest.
Morty, the
That is
Purge
what I'm
episode?
quoting. I'm quoting the Rick and Morty. And
Yes.
well, like actually no, his is worse. He smash cuts 2 weeks back.
Yeah.
Then he smash cuts like a year ahead.
2 weeks earlier. And he goes, "So, what did you think of my tale?" I was, I don't know. If I had to give some criticism, maybe just, start it when it starts. Don't do that 2 weeks earlier thing.
Get out.
Yeah. Shoves him down the stairs. You like that? How about we cut back to 2 weeks earlier when you were alive?
Oh, Morty, you're starting to purge it.
Yeah, Morty, you purged.
Yeah, but point
Yeah,
is that they're
one of the
making
best
fun of
episodes
us.
of the show, by the way.
It is.
Um,
But point is, we're making fun of a very specific thing that people use to create false interest. Don't do it.
No, I agree. I think the current starting place, like where it is right now, is correct because it starts with the conflict, right? Because what's Gareth's central conflict? The central conflict is related to trauma surrounding his family. That's what motivates him, right? To do what he does. So you started off with the specific moment, literally the moment that is like the straw that breaks the camel's back and causes him to leave, right? Uh, I think that that's a great way to do it. The only other thing that I could do, which I will not, unless like I have a publisher would really need to talk me into this, be like, hey, we love your book, but and we're a great opportunity, but like you got to do this, like then maybe I would. But the only other place I could theoretically start it is Gareth riding into Camelot on Pentecost and then doing the whole flashback thing. Um, I don't think I should.
No, it's like people like who do the in media res thing. It only works if one, your character's motivations are simple and easy to understand at a glance, i.e., revenge. You've got a product partnership and everything with the concept of vengeance, and guess what's guess what's on the itinerary? A nation stop tour. You don't need to put a lot of characterization in that, but when you have a book like Son of Orkney, like you just need it. You just need time to develop the character. Otherwise, the reader isn't going to imprint on them. They aren't going to be like, okay, this is. I understand this young man, his journey, his whatever. I'm there with him all the way. Like it's a different if it's a different style of thing. If you write a book and it's like, actually, smash cut 2 weeks later is the pow 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 pinnacle, air horn noises, because you gotta have that intrigue, and they gotta not know what's happening. You gotta confuse the reader into reading more for your Kindle Unlimited AI slop. Uh, uh,
Yep.
yeah, but you know what I mean. Like it's like with Sir Balin. Yeah, I could probably smash cut from the Dolores stroke to when he kills King Arthur's cousin. Not even a problem. Probably would make some sense in it. But the thing is that that's not actually what anyone's doing with their stories. You know what I mean? It doesn't
Yep.
follow any Arthurian cant. It doesn't actually happen for a good reason. And quite frankly, it's like cheap heat in wrestling.
Uh yeah, I agree with you. Like, and especially like you said, Son of Orkney in particular, I think that Gareth's conflict is too complex to be boiled down, and what he's doing is too weird, right? Um, that to be boiled down to something that like you can't really immediately get in line with what he's doing, right? Like he shows up to Camelot, and this isn't even really a spoiler. It's straight from Mallory, right? It's from the Tale of Sir Gareth of Orkney. He shows up to Camelot and asks to be given food and drink for a year, right? But he doesn't give his name. All right, that's an extremely weird and specific thing to do, right? On one hand, it
Right.
gives you intrigue. On the other hand, why do I care? And why am I following this guy? And you go, oh, well, that's what the flashback's for. Well, all right, but now you've just wasted a chapter, right? Like, now I guess you've given me
Yeah.
some sort of thought, some sort of question, but like, you haven't given me the reason to care about the answer, right? Like Gareth in particular, what he's doing is so
Yeah.
specific. Um, and it's directly related to what's going on with his family. Like, why does he want to do it? Well, he has a famous brother. Well, he has an abusive family at home. So him hiding his name and him going to Camelot but not wanting to associate with his brother, these are all things that need to be established so that you can get behind the character's decision making, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, it's interesting. I'm working on I just started it, so I'm very, very early. I'm like one chapter in and it's only like 800 words. Um Lion of Cornwall, right? I have a lot of ideas. Like I have a document of ideas I've started keeping with for books. Lion of Cornwall, I have a sequel to After Camelot about Dagonet called The Last Grail Knight that I have like some plotting done on. I remember talking about to you about it in the past. There's some good ideas. I'm definitely
Yeah.
gonna write. Yeah, I'm gonna write that one day. It's a good idea. It's a good concept, but that's probably for the future. Uh, yeah, I'm working on a Line of Cornwall. I also have non-Arthurian ideas. There have been Pinkerton's ghost setting novels that have been in the background for a long time that I'll probably get to one day. Uh, I even have some more personal stuff that I might do that are like more literary even. Uh but I'll probably only do that after I do the fun popular stuff. Build an audience.
Right.
But yeah, like Lion of Cornwall is interesting because the story of Tristan and Isolde is not it doesn't have as much of a structure as the tale of Sir Gareth of Orkney. Tale of Sir Gareth of Orkney is great for adaptation because there's a very, very strong, clear structure. You have a final villain at the end of a quest, right? And with a series of challenges on the way. It's perfect. Uh, very ripe for adaptation. Lion of Cornwall is not that. Like, and the Tale of Tristan and Isolde, I should say, is not that. Um, it by necessity, it kind of needs to be more of a character study of Tristan. Like, and so it's going to be a little bit longer. It's also just not going to be paced the same way, right? It's gonna by necessity, it will need
Yeah.
to be a slower paced story. This isn't a bad thing necessarily. It might make it less marketable, but it could arguably make it better when all is said and done because it's more ambitious. It's going to focus on a larger scale, you know. Uh, and there's also the ending of Tristan and Isolde and Lion of Cornwall is also more ambitious. Like it has this really tragic ending. So it's gonna be interesting. Tristan's a pretty fun character to write when you do it correctly. Uh, he's somebody who is just very, very passionate about everything and is, he's 110% in everything he does. He's going to be the best knight and he's going to be the best harpist, right? And he's going to be the best lover, right? But also he's going to be really loyal. Like best knight also means like really loyal to his king, even when his king is treating him like a shit. But
Yeah.
then it kind of turns into this thing where he starts to organize his life around sin. And
Yep.
it's like he can get everything that he wants if he sins, right?
Yeah.
And he sees himself as a fundamentally good person, right? And in many ways he is. In many ways he's a great person, but he's a great person who is organizing his life around this central sin and needs to come to terms with that will ultimately kill him, right?
Yep.
So it's
Well,
an
it's
interesting idea.
Yeah, he is interesting in a certain amount of way. Like once Mallory kind of doesn't just have all the weird tournaments and stuff like that, there are moments where he's interesting. He's aware. He seems to know way more than it seems as a pretty boy. But then it's like also he pursues these things even to his destruction. Like there's a certain life to him that does spring from the page, even if you're like, come on, move, come on, do something.
Hmm.
With the story as presented by Mallory, it's telling that a lot of the stuff that does work for adaptations of the Tristan story is things like opera, where there isn't really a dull moment, and there's music and stuff playing all the time. Is Tristan the first autistic knight? Apparently, one of the funniest details in Mallory is that yeah, he did all this, and you know what? He was also the greatest falconer of his age. And there's a whole paragraph talking about all the work he did for falconry in the middle of the Mallory story. And it's like, thank you, Mallory. Very cool.
Yes, I agree with you. Is he the first autistic knight? No, Tristan's not autistic. A woman loves him.
How'd that work out for you, Anthony? But
Uh, I mean, I guess if a soul's autistic, it could work.
yeah, they're both. Yeah, I mean, it's the medieval times. They're already high on the bread fungus, so it's all working out. It's working
Yes.
out for everybody.
Uh, yeah, okay. Uh, now the other thing that's weird in Mallory that I've actually been debating on what to do with is will I be using the love potion, right? Because that's a part of the Tristan and Isolde story, is that they took a love potion. Um, I don't know actually. I am undecided. I am leaning towards no and then making it like a rumor.
I would actually make it an excuse. It doesn't actually work.
That's a smart idea. Make it like, somebody gives it to him, then later he like brings it up and it's like reverse it, and they're like, there was no fucking love potion. Like,
Right. You're both two beautiful people. It worked out.
yeah, and it's like, did it though? He's like, well, on a certain point of view. Uh, yeah, no, that's an interesting idea. I'm looking forward to that. I've been thinking over what to do for a Grail Quest book, and right now, what I'm leaning towards is making the story follow the misadventures of Gwaine and Lionel, and then when they're like about to be killed or something, the wasteland collapses around them, and they're just not there to see it.
I like it.
I think that could be fun. Uh, I would need to come up with a good plot. The problem is that Mallory makes a point of describing what happens to Gwaine and specifically says that's boring as fuck. That nothing happens to him. Literally, it's just like, yeah, and then Gwaine did stuff and it was kind of dull. So let's ignore him. Mallory's kind of odd because you'll sometimes see people be like, oh, Mallory, he's very loose with continuity with names and things. And this is sort of true, but also sort of misleading. Like sometimes he's very loose, and then on certain things, it's actually shocking how many thousands of pages of prep there are, right? Before you get to the payoff of certain things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like one of them is Gwaine. That's a really good example, actually. The Tale of Sir Gareth of Orkney is relatively early in the Lamort Tour. It's like book 7.
Yeah.
And it's in that book where Gareth is like, the reason that I prefer Lancelot over Gwaine is that Gwaine is very vengeful, right? And
Yep.
it's a problem. And this is like a Chekhov's gun that does not pay off until like the last book, right? Like,
Yeah.
but it's consistent characterization.
Yeah.
It's kind of impressive.
It's there throughout. Like, he takes vengeance. He murders some chick. He's part of the murders of Sir Pellinor and his mother. And it's he's still a very heroic character, but at the same time, there's a darkness in him that just comes out uh, in that vengeful streak that
Yep.
someone like Lancelot just doesn't have by comparison. Uh, You know, like, yeah, sure, Lancelot will like kill a lot of people or whatever, but actual like vengeance seeking, he just kind of does it if it shows up. He doesn't necessarily seek it out like Gawain will.
Yeah, it's I mean, I actually really like Gwaine as a character. I think he's
Oh,
one
he's
of the
great.
more interesting characters in the Lamort d'Artois because he's somebody he's one of the few characters who's like there's so many characters who are just like the good characters, right? And it's like Lancelot and Gareth and Tristan, right? Even if they
Yeah,
have this dark flaw, they're considered just like ultimately good, right?
yeah.
And then there's like the bad characters, and that's like Mordred, right? And
King Mark.
yeah, King Mark. And then Gawain occupies this middle ground. He's not the only one there. Palomides is also kind of there. Um, but he occupies this middle ground of a character who's definitely not evil, but who's striving, right? Like, and who's struggling.
Yep.
Like, I always found the sequence after Lancelot, escapes and and then he comes back to rescue Guinevere and he kills Gareth. I found it very moving, actually. Like it's a really touching sequence because Gawain is trying so hard to be like understanding to both sides for so long. You know, he's being like, well, Lancelot, he killed Agravain. And he's like, yeah, well, Agravain was opposing him. Like, I don't know, what was he supposed to do? I can understand, right? Like, I get
Yeah,
it. And then he kills Gareth, and Gawain is just like, no, I can't forgive that, right? Like, Gareth, he was just such a good person. He loved you, right? And he was not, and he was undefended, which is all true, by the way.
yeah,
Um, Canonically true. And he's like, I don't know how, like, you can't expect me to forgive this, right? It's not fair almost. And I found that to be very moving, like, really uh, a very touching story. Like, I felt for
yeah.
Gwaine. I felt bad for him.
He's a very human knight. Like, some of the things I'll never quite understand, but like how Lancelot or Tristan feel about, their women and their sin and their, you know, power and stuff like that. But I get Gawain. It's
Yes.
yeah,
Gwaine Lancelot's so interesting because, like, on one hand, again, the Grail quest in particular, Mallory does not go easy on Lancelot. He calls him out, right? Um, but then after the Grail quest, when you get to the finale, I'm still like never really been sure what Mallory was trying to say about what Lancelot did. Like, they make Gawain apologize, right? Now,
right.
on one hand, he did kind of have to because, like, Lancelot was repentant for the thing that Gawain was mad about, right? Which was the
Yes.
killing of Gareth. But it's hard to say, like, was Lancelot repentant at all about Guinevere? Like, again, there's this really weird thing where, like, I say weird, but on the other hand, I think it is like very alpha, right? In the sense of like
Yeah.
Mallory does have the psychology correct, right? Lancelot is
Yeah.
caught in the act with Guinevere, and he still does not admit it. They like find him in her room in his night clothes, like they're both in their night clothes or whatever, right?
Right.
And Lancelot will not admit he was having an affair with Guinevere.
Yeah.
He's just like, no, it's a misunderstanding. You just don't get it. And then there's this weird
I
thing with
was doing a
Arthur.
knightly deed. In her
Yeah.
pants. Yeah, goblins.
Goblins. Yeah, she had goblins in her pants. What can I tell you?
Had to take them off right now.
Where are the goblins? Oh, they're dead.
I'm Lancelot, best knight in the world.
I crushed them.
Just juggled them and then threw them against the wall. That's where all the blood comes from, and not this cut in my hand,
Yes.
which is also
Um,
goblin blood.
yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Anyway.
but yeah, then at the very, very end, Lancelot kind of like he does have Guinevere repent, which is interesting. She
Yeah.
genuinely repents, and then Lancelot tries to out repentance her, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But there's this weird moment where she goes like, he's like, I promise you I'm going to become a hermit. And Guinevere basically says something like, I don't know if I believe you. And then he's like, how dare you, madam? When have I ever broken my oaths? And I'm like, brother, you break them all the time. What the fuck are you talking about? This entire thing was like, I mean, does having an affair not count? I mean, I guess you never promised explicitly not to have the affair, but come on.
Like, well, you were helping her break her oaths for sure,
Yeah,
as well
you
as
were certainly helping Guinevere break her oaths. Like, what do you mean you don't break oaths? And then, but like, that's the thing. I feel like you're supposed to take that line seriously. Like, oh, yeah, it's Lancelot. He wouldn't break an oath. And I'm just not. I'm just reading it being like, I don't know, man. That doesn't make me feel better.
right.
Like,
It's
I feel like he would absolutely.
like one of the maids is like, "You're still loyal to Arthur, right?" Like as she's cleaning up the room or whatever. Yeah, I'm still loyal to Arthur. I die for him. He's my king. I love Arthur. I love Arthur so much. Oh, I hope he has a quest for me when I go back down for breakfast. And the maid's like, "This motherfucker. What is this dude talking about?" Yeah, but it's like I fully believe Lancelot would do something about that, unironically, and not realize what's what the problem would be with both saying I love Arthur, I am loyal to him, he's my king, and you know I'm sleeping with Guinevere on and off whenever until I feel too guilty about it.
Yeah, he does. He does end up becoming a hermit. So even though
Yeah,
I say all of this, but he really did like go off and become a hermit. Even then, he doesn't really explicitly say he did anything wrong, though I guess it's kind of
yeah.
implied by the fact that he becomes a penitent. You know,
Well, it's like who does he repent to? Arthur is in Avalon. Uh, Guinevere is I can't even remember their
she
interaction
was in a
anymore.
nunnery, and
She
he
was
did
in a
repent to her.
nunnery. Oh, he did repent to her. Well, I mean, I guess she was the main one to repent to, uh, being the last woman standing in the issue. But it's like, and he repented to Gawain over Gareth, not Agravain. Everyone was kind of happy when Agravain died, but except for Gareth. I mean, Gawain, I guess.
Even Gawain was like, "Well, I kind of get it."
Mm, I get he had it coming. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like to me, it always felt so too easy. As weird as it is to say, for a Protestant, just pray the prayer, and it's all good. The It's like the amount of mass suffering and the death of several Christian kingdoms can be placed squarely on this dude's shoulders.
right. And the especially strange thing about it is that Mallory does call him out about this in the Grail quest. But then he
Yeah,
like breaks his vows from the Grail quest, and it seems like the punishment in response to that isn't as bad as it was during the Grail quest.
yeah. Like what?
Like,
Did
I don't
heaven
know.
just get further away or something? Like it's I guess what we're talking about is like medieval morality. Like in the same way that a modern can't understand William Marshall or King John or Richard the Lionhearted or Saladin or whatever. We're struggling to reconcile with these guys. Like even though there was plenty of education, most monks were educated. Probably most hermits were educated too. They could read the Bible, probably had more of it memorized than the average Baptist preacher. Like those were the only ones who were educated, like in the same way. Like, yeah, sure, maybe a king could read. Maybe his princes could read. They did have educations like that. But also, they spent like 80% of their time at war or preparing for war. That doesn't lead to as much musings on theology as you might think. Are we just transposing our ability to think about theology, to read our Bibles, to you know um, have the luxury of comprehension of time to actually think about morality, like, or is the only thing that matters the fact that Lancelot repented? And maybe it's that. Maybe it's the only thing that matters is that even though he caused immense death and destruction, him repenting is the only thing that matters.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah,
I did try and give it more weight in my version of the story, so
yeah,
there you go.
I agree. Oh, your version I like. I'm just musing in general because it's like, the same thing I criticize about, liberals talking about the past. Am I doing it to these boys right here? I don't know.
No, it makes sense.
Mm,
I get the concern. I do think I don't know. The Lamort d'Artour is an odd book, right?
yeah,
Its morality is very strange because it's Christian, but with such an emphasis on courtly love that's definitely not Christian, right? But
right.
also, the courtly love is not entirely uncommented on, but it's sometimes not commented on. So it's hard to
Yeah.
get an idea of what Mallory really thinks of it.
Well, it's like the sources he had. Some were like hyper pro courtly love, like they were shipping Lancelot and Guinevere explicitly. But then like Galahad and the Grail Quest and Sir Balin as well in his own way are criticisms of those knights and those stories where like Lancelot sleeping with Guinevere or engaging in courtly love with Guinevere.
Yeah, and we've had this conversation about Tristan and Isolde, like, what's the way to understand Tristan and Isolde, right?
Yeah,
And it seems like the best way to understand it is almost to see Tristan as being intentionally excluded from like the Malorian world, right?
yes, he is kind of in a bottle.
But that's almost the point. Like, Lancelot is having his affair with Guinevere, but Lancelot's affair has consequences, right?
Yep,
Lancelot takes part in the Grail quest, and ultimately the affair causes the end of Camelot, right?
yep,
Um, okay. Well, then what about Tristan and Isolde's affair? Well, like, why does it seem like he gets off almost scot free, right? Even approved for it.
yeah,
Well, in a sense, it's almost like he's intentionally like not taking part in the Malorian worldview. Like that's almost the deal you have to make, right? Like Lancelot wants to go on the Grail quest, right? It's sort of it's the Achilles thing, right?
yeah,
That great line in Troy where it's like I wouldn't fight him. Well, that's why no one will remember your name, right? Um,
yep,
Tristan is not going to go on the Grail quest. Why? Well, because he's in the middle of this affair. He has his own thing going on. All right. He's not going to take part in any of the supernatural stuff. He's going to kind of keep at arm's length from the round table. Like he
yep.
joins it at one point, basically because Arthur makes him. Um, but even then, he's just kind of there because he has to be, you know. Um, he's sort of keeping the round table at arm's length. He's going to tournaments, but he's not taking part in any of like the supernatural stuff going on around them. There's no miracles
Right,
associated with him, like there are with Lancelot constantly, right?
yep. He
There's no he
explicitly
doesn't
says he's
try.
not sorry. He explicitly says that he's not going to rescue X Knight because like it's just he's just doing other things, it's too important.
Right, exactly. He's doing other things. So it's almost like Tristan is intentionally like, I am not going to be part of Mallory's story, right?
Yep,
I'm just not, in Mallory's story where sin has these massive consequences, but also these massive awards, or rewards, right?
yep,
Things have weight, things have meaning. Well, I am in a world where I am going to create my own meaning, right?
yep.
Well, what does that ultimately mean? It means you die off screen, stabbed in the back by a dick
Gamma
that nobody
male.
likes, right?
Yes.
Like, and that's Tristan's fate, and it's sort of the fate that he asked for, right? It's like, well, yeah,
Yep.
this is kind of what you wanted, though, isn't it? Like, sure, you didn't want to die, but like, you don't get the grand ending that all the other knights get, right? You don't get your big death scene. You don't
Yep.
get to repent, and you don't get to, right? And sure, nobody's gonna bother you about it, but you don't even get to try for the Grail, right?
Yep.
You get a sold for a while, and then
Yep.
you get stabbed. It's a devil's bargain.
Yeah. It's it's like I don't know if Dante ever put any of the Arthurian knights in his work, but like it'd be like you take a journey through hell, and Tristan is in the realm of sloth instead of lust, and it's like, but why? Well, he refused to call all the time. Like he had moments where he could have been the great hero, or he could have participated and learned some, you know, Sesame Street ass lessons about not sleeping around with your liege lord's wife next to Lancelot. Uh, but at the same time, like it would he would lose a little bit of what he is to do that sort of thing. Uh, I don't know.
He would, but that's kind of why it has to go the way that it goes, right?
Yeah,
Like it's very frustrating when you learn that Tristan died off screen because he takes up about like or off page, because he takes up about like 40% of the book.
I know.
So it is definitely very it's very odd, right? It's like, oh, that's what happened. But on the other hand, it's kind of had to happen that way, didn't it? Right?
Yep.
Like, because Tristan didn't earn a good death. You know,
No. It's the thing about choices that people say, the old thing about like suffer or suffer, kind of thing, between the suffer at the gym or suffer in a hospital bed because of your own weight. Like it's that kind of thing. Like he chose a different path, and it's a cool path sometimes, but at the same time, now that we're like actually examining his life, it's kind of like, okay, but like what do we make of it? With your work, I don't know if you've gotten to King Mark yet or not. We should probably
I'm
make sure.
right about to. In fact, I the reason I didn't was partially because I wanted to ask you about how he was supposed to look.
I haven't described them, but I will get to that. Um, but the I will make that one of my projects tonight. Uh, I make him small though. He's smaller than, like, it's easy to be smaller than Sir Balin, but he's not going to be a tall man. Uh, like it's like you can't have like a fat gamma running around in medieval times. It just doesn't work. How in the world did you get fat during medieval times? Do you know how many calories you'd have to be eating to be fat and not, yeah, anyway, and being actively riding around and trying to stab people king? Like it just doesn't work. Um, what am I trying to
Yeah,
say? Hmm.
I don't see anything of like. Here's the thing. I've been wondering like, should I make Calamites a gamma? That's an interesting question.
Hmm. I don't have
I was
anything.
leaning towards it for a while because here's the thing. I've written him once before as the protagonist of the Last Quest of Sir Palamides. We
Yeah.
don't get a lot of it. It's a pretty short story. In the story, I would argue that you can interpret him as Gamma, but we just don't get that much of him.
Yeah. Well, for Sir Palamides, like, like he has this antagonism. I'm better than. I'm not better than. He sort of flip flops around, giving him that streak. Like he doesn't have like Gamma is a spectrum, but it's like giving him that streak of like lying to himself, lying to others, but at the same time, trying to pursue like King Arthur and the courtly ideals is something worth going after. I imagine King Mark. Well, I'll show you some pictures of people from Cornwall, but basically, I've always imagined him slighter and shorter than his knights, not in like like a Lord Farquaad kind of way, just 1 inch shorter, kind of thing. Because like if I make him tall and handsome and stuff like that, he's just going to be like all the other tall and handsome alpha males, pseudo alpha or otherwise. If I make him if I give him certain like strength of body and stuff like that, he's going to be fundamentally a different kind of person than who he is. Because in a reality like medieval times, like Arthurian mythos, if you aren't who you say you are, you will be killed, and be killed very quickly. It's like you can't like fake being strong, because somebody will be coming around to kill you. Like it's somebody's gonna fight you for the sheer joy of fighting you and no other reason at all, and so you kind of get stuck on it. So that's kind of what I always imagined him like. Not that he's like fat, not that he's weak, but that he's just that edge under, right? In the same way that Arthur or King Lot can like fight from the front of their armies, he just can't. Because Arthur or King Lot or even Nero will just body him. Poor guy.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I
Palomides is within probably the top 5 knights, at least top 10.
Yeah, he's top 5 several times.
They refer to him as the good knight Palomides whenever they talk about him.
Yeah.
They're constantly like, "Oh yeah, Palomides is a good knight."
They constantly talk each other up though. Like it's like it's why I had Tiffany in
they're bros.
The set. They are. That's why I had Tiffany in the Savage Knight be so like pro Sir Lancior. Like she's the one who announces the fight rather than Lancior himself. Just because the damsels are like the hype beasts of the medieval world.
Yeah.
If they had TikTok, it'd be like those looks maxers, except it's like being talked up by their damosel. Clavicular's damosel kills herself after the plastic surgeon cuts a little too much of his nose away.
Nice. That's the other thing, since we're talking about the publishing of it. So what happens if I don't get a good offer, right? What happens if I don't get a good offer in all of these? First off, the book probably needs revision. But even besides that, right? Like, okay,
right.
I did not get anything. Now, I believe in Son of Orkney. I think it's pretty good, right? Like, with that said,
I also believe in it.
But what happens then? Well, then I am probably going to self-publish it with you. So what would that look like? Well, I've tried to do some math on like what it would cost for the 2 things I would need, which is an editor and a cover, right?
Yeah.
Essentially, I think I could probably get it done with $2,500.
Definitely.
Now, where it could be a problem, we would need to consider on if it would be worthwhile for us to kickstart it together. Right?
I think so. Yeah.
The thing is that if we did that, we would need to ask for $5,000.
Yes.
So I don't know. I'm hoping that we can avoid this. I would rather have a publisher do this for me. But if we were to do it, like 100, like these books are coming out. There's no way I'm not going to try and sell, sell these. They're not going to be stuck in a trunk somewhere. They're definitely going to be sold. But yeah, like we would probably run a Kickstarter, and then it would be the stretch goals would be paperbacks and hardcovers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because all we really need is a cover and an editor.
And there's plenty of good covers running around. I don't know the prices for these guys, but like there's a guy called Brigand something or other that has some really good Arthurian covers that I just love. Like not like covers, but like images I just love. And it's
I'd
like,
love
yeah,
to see if I can get Jojo Fraga to draw something actually, because she does do
ooh,
static art.
she was affordable and professional.
Yeah, no, she would be
She,
cool.
she does ask for a little bit more for covers, if I remember from the email, but at the same time, I'm down. I'm down
Her
to hire
artwork's
her
great,
again.
and I think
Her
it would.
artworks,
I think it could definitely fit for Arthurian with
yep,
not that much of an not that much of a change. I've been looking a lot at you know what I'm thinking of, the Norman Rockwell painting of the boy with the knight,
yeah.
and I gotta
Ooh, that's
say
good.
the yeah, it's a great painting. And it is very much like part of the project. I'm gonna try and paste it. I'll paste it in Discord for you. I found it if you
Yeah,
want to put it up.
sure.
But I gotta say, it is a lot of the motivation for the project, right? Like people need these role models.
Oh, that's a classic.
Yep. People really do need this. You know, young boys, they need these sorts of things. Gareth is the sort of story that I think is genuinely the sort of thing that that young boys can use nowadays. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't consider it. I did not write it as a children's book or even as a young adult book, right? It was written. I didn't write it with limitations in mind, is how I would put it, right? With that said, I'm just generally not a very graphic writer by nature. Like, I don't want to be.
Yeah.
So I do think that somebody in middle school could probably maybe you might want a parent to read it first for the stuff with Leoness and Dagonet near the end.
Yeah.
And even it's not nothing actually happens in it. It's not like I show anything immoral, but
Like if a parent's doing their job and reading the Bible to kids, they've already seen it. They've already seen about the level that you're putting out.
yeah, I would say so. I think probably like 7th, 8th grade, I think would be a good would you could read Garrett not Gareth of Orkney, that's a different book. Son of Orkney.
Yeah. Well, it's like if it don't worry, we don't have anything that's not in the Bible. And her emission was like the emission of donkeys, and no,
Yeah.
not that part.
We don't have anything that's not in the Bible. So Leoness cuts off his foreskin with a stone. No.
In front of the people of Israel and throws it at Moses' feet. Yeah, that one. All right. Let me tell you, Anthony, I have read the Bible
Now
back
I
to
am a
front
wife of blood.
multiple times, but that story is still fucked. I don't know. I understand that it's about a woman making sure her family is right before God at all costs, but it's still messed up. And it's not
Yeah, I
like I
don't
don't
fucking get
believe
it.
it. I
I
just
don't even
don't get it.
pretend.
I'm
I don't get it.
sure. I'm sure there's a reason for it. I'm sure, but
Well, of course,
I'm
yeah,
scared.
obviously there is, but I don't get it. Do
I
not
don't
get
get
it.
it. I don't get it.
But anyway, yeah, I think Son of Orkney, and that's very much what I hope to do with my fiction. Even with adults, right? Like it should be something that inspires you to do better. Son of Orkney in particular ended up being a very sunny novel, right? Like
Oh yeah.
and it wasn't really like it's not like I went into it with the goal of like I want to write something optimistic, but the original tale of Sir Gareth of Orkney is very sunny.
Yeah.
Like Mallory's version just
It's
ends on a very
definitely
upbeat note.
like if I were to define it, like I call this the what did I call this stream? Something something autumn. Twilight of the seasons. There's definitely because it's feeling very fall here in Missouri, which means that it's only 80 degrees, and starting to get a little darker at night. Uh, like if you were to find things like Arthur is a winter story, like the first thing with the sword and the stone. Sir Balin is like the cold before spring. And so it's like it's cold. There's like one good day, but it's still cold. And as the thing goes, it warms up, but there's a blizzard at the end. That's the Dolores stroke. As you go on, you go into spring. You have things like the fight where Gawain earns his spurs. You have Sir Gareth. You have things go on till summer. Tristan is a summer story. Fall and the beginning of fall, the first cold day is actually the Grail quest. It's not
Mm-hmm.
actual winter. It is the first cold day after summer, where like you just get one weirdly cold day and then it's hot again. And then you move on. You move on. The Grail quest ends. It's starting to feel a little colder. Then you have the onset of fall and winter, where you are in the twilight of the civilization, as short as it was, where you have the revelation of Guinevere's betrayal of Arthur, where you have the destruction of the kingdom. And then it's winter again, and Arthur falls at Camlin after slaying Mordred. It's an eternal cycle. I'm sure Evola fans are cheering right now, but it's this the eternal golden age falls, rises again kind of thing, where Constantine starts putting it back and spring comes again under Constantine, even though it's not as good a year as it was before. Like you can understand the spirit of the stories through this kind of mode. Tristan having all these adventures in the sun, but Gareth is actually the sunny knight, where he has these things that are out in the open and heroic, and it's genuinely heroic, and it's not tainted by anything, which I like.
Yeah, I'm thinking it over. The tale of Sir Gareth of Orkney is definitely it's an interesting story for a variety of reasons. For one of them, it was made up by Mallory, probably. Certainly he based it off a few things. Again, there was like the Fair Unknown story from France, right? Um, and there were various figures who had like similar-ish names that he probably got this from. Uh, but Mallory made up the story. So Gareth was kind of a pet character for him. But one of the more interesting things, in my opinion, about like Son of Orkney and the Arthurian cycle is that even though Son of Orkney ends on a very upbeat note, right? Because Mallory's does, there is a darkness lurking at the edge of it, right? And it's hinted at in the story. Um,
Yeah.
it's only hinted at. It's hinted at in two places. First is that Gareth explicitly, I have a line in there from the narrator, really, where like they mention that the wasteland is still out there, right? Gareth does not get rid of it. He is not the knight who is going to end the wasteland. That's not his job, right? That's Galahad, ultimately, who is going to do it. And you could sort of see in the story how I don't think Gareth would want to, right? Like, I don't think he would think he
Right.
was good enough. I don't think he would, I think he would be like, no, I'm not the guy, right? Like,
Yeah.
I shouldn't be trusted with this. Um, and then the second moment, which is more subtle and is one of my favorite details in the manuscript, because this one was added by me, so I'm going to brag slightly. Um, yes, is Gareth is fighting Lancelot early. Now in Mallory, Gareth straight up just fights Lancelot to a draw. In fact, if anything in Mallory, it's implied that Gareth is winning and Lancelot asks for the draw because he's kind of worried that he might lose. Uh, Granted, there's also a tiny, tiny bit of a hint that Lancelot might be holding back very slightly to avoid killing him, but still, it's kind of crazy. Uh,
Yeah.
anyway, I have that fight scene where he fights Lancelot to a draw. Um, and I have a particular detail in the scene where Gareth is getting tired. They're getting near the end of the fight, and Dagonet calls out to him for advice. And he says, "Stop retreating, stand your ground. It's Lancelot. He won't kill you." And Gareth realizes that he's right. And at the last moment, Lancelot turns his blade to the side, which gives Gareth an opening, right? Um, I particularly like this moment because, as anybody who knows their Mallory knows, is very true that Lancelot does kill Gareth. He kills an
Yeah.
undefended Gareth later in life. So this moment has a particular dark irony to it, right?
Right.
Stand your ground. It's Lancelot. He won't kill you. And Lancelot one day is going to come back and he is going to strike Gareth undefended, right?
Yep.
Not armed. And he's going to kill Gareth because of his affair, right?
Yeah.
Because
Gareth
he
is standing in the crowd, and he gets in the way of Lancelot saving Guinevere.
I'm pretty sure Lancelot didn't know it was Gareth at first.
Right.
But that doesn't really matter, does it?
In the story, as I'm recalling it, he does find out, and he's like, "Fuck, what did I do?" You know.
Yeah, he
This.
finds out after though.
Yeah.
Which so there's kind of a darkness to the Gareth story at the edge of it. Like one of the things that makes it dark is that it's so sunny, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's such a happy and optimistic story,
Yeah.
and it ends on such an incredibly dour note ultimately, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't end. It's like, oh, Gareth gets married, he becomes a knight, everybody knows who he is, everything's happy. And then you go like, yeah, but that's not where the story ends, is it? Ultimately it ends with just a pointless death, right?
Over
And I
sin.
think that that's important to remember. Like it's there in the background. It's not,
Yeah.
and it's just kind of we live in this world where that's always going to be the case, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's like yeah. It. How I'll put it, like it's like when Christians especially experience tragedy, it's like the question shouldn't ever be, all of these things happen to me. No, 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 no. You were a Christian. You already accept the world's shit because of sin nature and stuff like that. Like we're fallen. But the thing is that like you increase the tragedy by the greater sin that you do in the face of that tragedy. So like instead of forgiving, even though he does in the end, instead of forgiving in that moment, Gawain lets his grief take hold of him. And ultimately, it's what gives Mordred the end to take over England. Uh, you know, Arthur can't forgive Guinevere or Lancelot, in the sense of like removing their punishments for their sin against him. But at the same time, it's like he can forgive personally, but he can't forgive as the king, which are two different things. Like God forgives David for Bathsheba in the end, but the punishments still happen uh, for what God promised. It's kind of the same way. Like it's the choices that these people could have made that in the end sort of lock them into what they're forced to be, and it sucks and it causes more misery, but at the same time you know it's a demand of the setting of the people of what was happening, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. I don't know, it's like it's a theologically careful thing, because um if you don't consider this in your Christian walk, what'll happen is that something bad will happen and you'll react badly, and it'll cause a chain reaction of bad things to happen socially, like with Lindsay Clancy thing that we're seeing now. We're hearing reports of women who are murdering their kids. Hint, they were already doing that. And it's it's a social contagion. In the end, the reaction for some sort of like social contagion in the world itself is to crush it. and to shame it. But for ourselves and in our own hearts, the reaction has to be seeking a godlier life.
Yeah, it's the Lindsay Clancy thing is worth talking about as well, because the best commentary I read on it was one that was linked to me by William Briggs.
Yeah,
So you know Briggs, yes?
he's a great guy. Yeah,
Yeah, fantastic. Was one of the great commentators on COVID. Lost his job to the woke.
yeah,
Um, he linked an article with it, and believe it or not, I'm probably going to shock some people when I say like that. I generally agree with the article. They said like what the Lindsay Clancy issue is one of the great failures of like the modern myth of equality. Now, this is entirely aside from. I'm not even going to get into like, oh well, what equality isn't actually like that all men and women are literally the same or whatever, right? I don't give a shit. I'm talking about how people use it now, right?
yes,
So forget the historical debate for a moment. And he says what it really is a failure of the problem of equality. They said women go a little bit insane after childbirth. We all know this. And this is the thing that people are like not getting about the case to an extent where like, and this is going to sound weird. It's going to sound like I'm making excuses, but hear me out here. Cause I'm very much, I am, but I'm not. Um,
right,
because they say like what people are missing here is when they go, oh, it's I'm postpartum depression doesn't make you kill things. She was looking this up. It's not postpartum depression. That is a completely different thing. It's postpartum psychosis, right?
yeah,
Psychosis causes hallucinations. Psychosis causes you to snap. It absolutely could be like if you're hearing a voice saying like, hey, you have to kill your kids or else the world will end or something, right?
right,
Like that is 100% a thing that could cause you to look it up. Yes.
yep,
Right. And also, like, think about the sequence of events here. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? Like, if she were this evil mother, why'd she jump out the window? Like, none of that makes any sense. And permanently injure herself, right? If she were just
yeah,
evil or she is psychotic. She's literally psychotic, right?
yep,
So then you go, okay, so then what are we even doing here? They said, well, we're going to a trial. And it's like, this woman clearly went insane. We know she went insane. We don't have any reason to think that she was evil from before this, right? We
yep,
know for a fact that she was actually trying to go for help. And for some incredibly cruel reason, the pharmaceutical industry was pumping her with drugs instead of actually helping her. Well, there is a reason. The reason is COVID, right?
yep,
So it's a consequence of Fauci ultimately, but that's another story, right?
yep,
They weren't actually meeting with her and weren't actually getting her the help she was literally begging for. Now, all of this is to say that in one sense, I am agreeing with a lot of what some people are saying, but the problem is we are treating this woman like she is meant to be some sort of rational actor. You hear it sometimes with people where they go like, "We wouldn't treat a man this way." No, we wouldn't, would we?
no, yeah,
But like this is the where we're gonna have to disagree here because we shouldn't,
yeah,
right? Like because a woman in this position is not in the position that a man would be in. She shouldn't be judged the same. And they said like, so what are we doing here? Like her entire life, they said, so we're gonna like clearly she's legally insane. So
right,
she's punished enough for it. She's not going to be a danger to anyone else. It's not like what we're saying is, oh, we're going to let her back on the street to just live and do celebrity interviews.
right,
No, she's going to be watched her entire life, right? She's going to have to live with the fact that she did this.
yeah,
Um, and instead, we're dragging her through a frankly cruel trial on both sides, right? Because on one
true,
hand, you have on her end of it that we're like, okay, now we need to prove what? That you were sane when you killed your children when you clearly were not, right? And it's very obvious to everyone. And then on the other hand, what's the state have to prove? Like, what are we doing? Like none
yeah,
of it makes any sense. Why are we wasting time on this? This should be over. It should be a tragic case that's over, shut, and done. But because we need to act like she's a rational agent, right? When
yep,
she clearly is not, we have to go through this, rigmarole, this farce of a trial that we're all watching right now as we drag everybody through the mud, right, on both sides.
yep.
Like,
The funniest comment on it was Uh, 2025 women choose the bear. 2026 women are murdering their children.
Yes.
I'm of the opinion she should be executed, but it's also like yeah, how do I want to put it? It's as much to make sure justice is done as everything else. I would also say a lot more other people need to be executed. I'm like Flesh Simulator. If we just kill the worst 5% of society, everything will get better. The After a court of law, of course. But the supposedly. But the thing is that like I hate it more for how it's presented than for the thing itself. The idea that women are evil and can kill their kids under psychotic means, which I'm going to be real, the dad should have never left. If my wife is showing signs of psychosis, if I leave, she's getting locked up. Like like, okay, sweetie, I'm going to chain you to the radiator while I get your 50 medications. Uh, you know, like because why? Well, because the Lindsay Clancy case, and by the way, the Casey Anthony case before this, and I'm sure there were other ones before. Consciousness and TV blasting every sordid court case it can. But when it comes to this sort of thing, like where's the heroic in it? In the end, we have to give an opinion about a mother who murdered her children, psychotic episode or no. The fact is that yeah, sure, society failed her because they didn't teach the woman how to moderate the voices in her head. Guess what? When I take a blind turn at night, sometimes I hear a voice that says, "Do it, launch the car, ramp off the 10-foot embankment into the national park. You certainly won't regret that." It's like, no, I'm not doing that. And I continue on my way. Other people do it. There's a French term. It's the English translation of it is the call of the void. Like it happens to people all the time. Like if you have a particularly strong one, I think it gets mixed up with depression and other things like that. When in actuality, you just got to stop listening to the voice in your head. I've talked to actual schizophrenics in my gas station job, and guess what? They had no idea that the voices were lying to them. Well, I'm worried about my girlfriend. Oh, where's your girlfriend? Is she here now? No, she's in Ohio. Bud, we're in St. Louis. It's 3 a.m. Saturday on St. Louis, or Friday morning. There we go. Uh, in St. Louis. Your girlfriend's in Ohio. If she were after you, she'd be here. Well, the voices tell me, Bud, the voices are lying to you. And he looked at me like, as in, like he had never thought about that before. And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, the voices are lying to you. And he wandered off. It's like other times, you hear about these things. Literal demons just whispering in your ear. They can't actually get you to do anything. That's the thing. The it's the oh, what is it? That I recently reread that short story by John C. Wright about the demon that grants wishes. Uh, and
Yeah,
it
fate of
is
fortune.
fate of fortune. And the thing is that the demon explicitly says he can't do anything that the guy doesn't allow him to do. Until he's dead, basically. The he is denied it until death. It's the same way. Like at some point, should have been 50 different social measures to protect this woman from her own mother. I don't know whether her mother's alive or dead, and I'm not going to look that up. From her own mother to her mother-in-law, as much as they probably hate each other, in the classic way. Her husband should have been providing spiritual guideship. I think this family's not Christian, or they're nominally Protestant Christian, which is meaningless. Um, there should have been a pastor, several elders and deacons of the church, the elders and deacons' wives, friends in her life, who would have said, "No, that's fucking crazy. Don't talk like that." Like the social order we see in things like Arthurian stories, where there are everyone and everything all around them, and a hermit who's going to give you spiritual advice on the random. Uh, they're for people. Uh, it's different. Like we're stuck in this fucked media circus, and at the same time, there's a whole lot of stuff going around about what's this, what's that. Well, no, in the end, she did murder her children. She listened to the voice. I don't care. She deserves to be drawn and quartered because this is a hell crime. Like this is not just a felony. This is an offense to God. This is something beyond comprehension that requires, if you're some sort of sexual degenerate who gets off on cruelty, requires absolute deep study to reach this level of hell degeneracy that you can achieve it, to think this is any sort of good. Like, I cannot overstate how bad this is, and how much this needs to be hideously publicly uh, punished in a way that absolutely no one will ever consider doing within our nation again. And there doesn't need to be a reason for it. The second that you strangle your kids with exercise bands is the second that your life is forfeit over, and you will be torn apart by Abrams tanks at the earliest opportunity. Um, that was there. I have no idea why people are speaking kindly about it, even yourself, because quite frankly, and I'm sorry I'm crashing out on this when I was trying to agree with you
No,
earlier.
I could talk to you
Uh,
about it because I linked the article. I do recommend it. Again, I want to emphasize that the article is very much like this is a dude that you agree with. Like, let me put it that way,
yeah,
right? 100%. This is a guy you agree with.
yeah,
So, like, how is his perspective so different? And I do tend to agree with it. So,
yeah,
and this is what he says. He has a section here. Why do I feel so much sympathy for the killer? The killings are a horrible offense against nature, and precisely so because they're an affront to the sacredness of the family. So,
yeah.
in other words, he completely agrees with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
The crime offends us so deeply because a woman should not be able to contemplate such a felony in her right mind. And absent overwhelming proof to the contrary, one wants to claim a standard higher than reasonable doubt. It is right to presume the woman has not committed such an act in her right mind. Even if this presumption is wrong, it is worth defending. For to treat the bond between mother and child as equivalent to the regular duties of citizen to citizen is to defile the primary bond of family life. This, of course, is what the cattle at the bar want to do. The prosecution serves no end of public safety. Clancy will be confined or surveilled for the rest of her days and poses
Yep.
no real threat to anyone but herself. Nor does the Commonwealth have any lawful authority to cripple her, meaning it can do no worse than what she has done to herself. The purpose of the trial is to validate the total rights of the state and wield them against a broken woman. The state's unspoken theory is that it has absolute authority over children, and mere biological motherhood confers no rights beyond those of a temporary caretaker or daycare provider. The special bond between mother and child, which makes the Clancy case so abhorrent to all decent people, is to the government a means of attacking that bond, of making it morally and legally nugatory. Why should women's natures be accounted for when drugs do such a good job of squelching it? And why should motherhood be treated with reverence when it can be stamped out without a care? Massachusetts mothers now have
Oh,
the right to
excuse me.
murder their children up until the day before birth. This is true.
It's
These
true.
murders are conducted with clear minds and for the most self serving reasons, aided and abetted by quote unquote medical professionals, morally condoned by all progressive people. Whatever Clancy's mental state on the eve of the killings, there is no evidence she was prone to the absolute depravity of a single abortionist. Even if her insanity defense is nonsense and malice of foresight could be established, from her courtroom outbursts, there is every reason to believe her conscience is still active and will gnaw at her for the rest of her days. If every abortionist threw herself out a window, as Mrs. Clancy had the decency to do, our civilization might have a chance. Instead, the killers go to law school or study mental health and let credentials stand in for conscience. This is the kind of prosecution that could not be brought by men, at least men who appreciate their own natural rights and are the only creatures deserving of the appellation. The trial is a battle of women against motherhood. Let the crippled and broken Mrs. Clancy suffer her own torments. God knows she will, and let God punish her as he sees just. The government can only be involved for the sake of cruelty. The case exists to validate our corrupt mental health system against its countless victims, and to disparage the ties of motherhood and fatherhood against the all powerful state and its female apparatchiks. A conviction will not serve any concrete end of justice, but it will support the conclusion that the system works. If you kill your children outside the parameters prescribed by the state, the Commonwealth will hunt you down in your padded cell and roll your body into the courtroom. If you kill your children within the state's parameters, have you thought of a degree in criminal justice? So yeah, find this a very, very convincing argument.
It's a good argument.
But with that said, I understand what you're saying as well. Like the counter argument here is there are certain things that are so beyond the pale that they need to be immediately and thoroughly punished with the full force of the law to be made an example of for the future, no matter what, right?
Yep.
And I get that too. Like there is a point to there is certainly some force to that as well. Um the troubling thing to me, which I think we could both agree on, I don't think this is really a difference of opinion necessarily,
Mm.
is abortion. How does that play into this? That the people who are trying to put this woman in jail, every single one of them, without a doubt, is going to be in favor of abortion. A far worse crime, frankly.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, because again,
yeah.
for the reasons that were stated, because it's done with malice aforethought by people in their right minds and fully approved by society. They should all be suffering much, much worse than anything that happens to Clancy. Now, with that said, you know, like you're saying, I do get the force of the point here, which is
Yeah.
that what she's did was evil, right? Well,
Yeah.
nobody's disagreeing with that. And then, but you're going, okay, but it's so evil.
People are disagreeing with that.
Right. Well, I should say neither of us are disagreeing with that, right?
Yeah.
Specifically, right? Neither of us are
Yeah.
disagreeing with that, right? They're insane feminists and lunatics who are disagreeing. But
Yeah.
what she did was evil. This is incredibly evil, like unbelievably evil. You know, there's certainly that's certainly the case. I guess it's more to me like we're looking at a woman who went insane, and it seems pretty clear to me that she went insane, right? That's
Sure.
what it looks like. And then we're saying that we have to punish this woman with the full force of the law for a very good reason, right? In particular, the very good reason that she needs to be made an example of, right, for the future. Okay.
Hmm.
And that does make some sense, but it doesn't really work in a society where abortion is permitted because we're making an example of her, but you know, you probably know people who have gotten an abortion, even if not directly, like indirectly, secondhand somewhere, right?
I have
And
Christian
they're
family
just,
members who are okay with it.
yep. And they just walk down the street without a care,
Yeah.
you know? And that's sickening. Abortion
Yeah.
is the thing that can make me have a gamma crash out more than anything else. And it is for the very specific reason that I not only consider it dreadfully evil, satanically so, right? That's not
Yeah.
even the thing. There are many evil things in the world. It's that I consider it so stupid in the sense of like, I've never heard even a decent argument made for it. You can see, like, you know, philosophers will try and jerry rig, like the violinist argument, you know, very, very so like people don't know about that shit. It's not anywhere in their mental landscape. Right, the arguments that people make in favor of abortion are retarded. um there isn't any in reality, right? Like,
Right.
and it's very obviously wrong, and it makes me angry when I see people arguing for it as if it is a position that can be debated by a rational society. Like, of course it can't be. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Obviously you can't kill your kids. Like, why are we even discussing this?
Right.
Like, it makes me genuinely mad. And it makes me mad because I don't see a debate here. Like, Trent Horn is a Catholic apologist who he cut his teeth doing abortion debates, right? And that even though he's sometimes a mixed bag on other things, in my
Mm,
opinion, on abortion debates he's exceptionally good, and like you could see him go up against like that's the thing. You think like, oh well, it's because he's not sophisticated. You know, they're like not going up against the sophisticated arguers like college students or whatever. I've seen him debate embryologists, right? I've seen him debate philosophers. I've seen people debate, see him debate people who are like experts in this. And he doesn't just win the debates. It's like a
yeah,
demolition. It's like an embarrassment every single time, right?
yeah,
The only time it wasn't a total embarrassment was, and he won, by the way. I want to be clear here. Like, he did win the debate very clearly. I think any honest person would say it was Destiny. And that's because Destiny is a smooth talking con man, right?
yeah,
Like it had nothing to do with the quality of the arguments. It's because Destiny is a fast talker who can cover up things, right? And
right.
even then, I think he lost pretty clearly. I think most people that was most people's contention. I
It
think the
was,
best you could say is that Destiny didn't get humiliated in the
yeah.
same way that some of the others did. But the reason he didn't is because he's very good at slick talk to cover up things, right?
Well, and it's like people like talk about debates and stuff like that. Like if you're playing a card game against a flim flam man, and the dude is able to get one or two over you because he's a flim flam man and his business is being flim flam about card games. Like there's no shame in that. That doesn't mean anything. It just means that this
Exactly.
dude. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And that's Destiny. Destiny is a very good con artist, right? Very good
yeah,
flim flam man, as he put it. And I'll give him credit for that. I think it's bizarre to me that he has any platform at all. I'm like, the dude fucking lost debates against Trent Horn, who's a YouTube apologist with like 150,000 subscribers, and he's
yeah.
appearing on like Fox and CNN. Like, who is this guy, and why do we care? Why are we caring what he says?
Whose pet is this?
Right?
Uh,
He's just he's a disgusting, creepy pervert. And you could quote me on this. I hope he hears it.
yeah.
Like,
Well,
really.
so let's go back to I absolutely agree with you on the abortion thing, and I hadn't been thinking about the government overreach or the lack thereof in certain cases, or the government promotion of things like abortion in the context of Lindsay Clancy. But the thing is that I do view them as connected but different things. In the same way that I view um, something like fantasy connected to Arthurian myth. Yeah, absolutely. If I see a King Arthur story in fantasy, I dig it. I understand. It's the same way for me. But the thing is that like there's a subtle difference. There are communities who are pro-abortion and who even sexually fetishize abortion, racially, personally, whatever you want to call it. Like it's evil. It's just a pit of hell. The thing is that like that's not quite the overlap. That's not how people are treating it. Uh,
It's
they're
not. That's true.
they're not connecting it to abortion, just like I'm not connect. I didn't connect it to abortion until it was brought up here. Um, Not because of some sort of how do I want to put it? Like the connection to abortion isn't really about some sort of control over the mother of the kids. It's viewed as a fundamental right in the same way that a Roman, they killed their kids a lot less than people say they did, but the idea that the Roman could kill his children, like it's exaggerated. It's a different thing. The patriarch couldn't actually do that as much as you think they could have. It's just a fact that they had the right to under certain circumstances. You might say, well, Constantine killed Crispin. Yeah, he did it on a false charge that Crispin was sleeping with his stepmother and was making a rebellion against the throne. And guess what? Constantine put a stop to it before it could happen. If it was happening at all, it turns out it was a false charge. It's a very tragic story, and it's one that he regretted all his life. But fundamentally, that's not actually what's being talked about. Yes, Constantine was right to kill his son. No, it's not the same as the patriarch being able to kill his children for different reasons. Uh, in this, in the anyway, but with the Lindsay Clancy thing, the reason why I still, even after you guys have read this to me, promote her being publicly shamed and executed is not because of what her crime was. It's because of the copycats. And this is something I posted on Twitter
Yep, this makes
days
sense.
ago. And the thing is that women have to understand that there are consequences to their action. And even though I love the women in my life, they're wonderful people. I have long realized that all the women I have actually gotten close to in my life are rational actors. They are even hyper rational. Even my sister, who does have woman moments, does have moments of what I would call irrationality. It's not as bad as some of the stuff I see from other people pretty much all the time. When I have to deal with a waitress who might be lying about a dude throwing up in a trash can, or if I have to deal with a stripper, or I have to deal with any number of irrational women, like mothers who think their children can go out with them and party, and that they're chaperoning them and it's going to be okay, even though they're taking drugs together. And the daughter overdosed in that story, by the way. Oh, you think I'm a bad mother? If she had come to me and asked me a second time, I would have said yes. Uh, you know, Whatever the kind option might be. Like what are we doing here? What can we do? At this point, there's too many lines in the sand. An abortion was 50 something years ago, and they were talking about it long before then. And quite frankly, abortion is one of the crimes that's been with us for all our existence. Uh, the it's it, like it's like we need like people talk about anarcho tyranny and all this jazz like it's the thing that's actually killing us. Well, no, it's the social destruction that's actually killing us. It's the fact that there are no answers to these things, that there wasn't 50 layers of defense for Lindsay Clancy and her problems. It wasn't the fact that it's the fact that there are married women going out there making these videos about, oh, my kids frustrate me so much. They shouldn't be allowed to post that. They should be whipped in the streets for posting anything negative about their children, because it'll just destroy them. And then what happens? These things rise up out of the dust like a revenant zombie. Many times, women who participate in pornography and repented, they have their kids, they settle down, they do the right thing. Their pornographic past is brought up back up to them. Like, none of these things are victimless crimes. None of these things will be forgotten. Instead, it's going to stand a testament forever. And quite frankly, I believe that there's explicit watch groups who go around and try to spread things like this. I've seen multiple stories from different people who do not interact with each other, where pornography was introduced to them by people who have, like low key have spook vibes. I had to remove pornography from almost weekly from this one Hispanic guy who would just sneak in and leave pornographic magazines in a gas station bathroom. And I'm using pornography, but there's other things to this. Like people talk about gang stalking. Yeah, there's actual gang stalker organizations running around. Well, I don't, like what are these? Like in the end, we have proven as a society we cannot handle freedom, and we're barely handling liberty. Uh, like I dig it. I dig that there's probably a situation where Lindsay Clancy, excuse me, I'm coming off of a cold. Uh, where Lindsay Clancy deserves some sympathy for the things that she experiences, for the medical harm that she experienced, for the SSRI she might not have needed. And instead, she needed a pastor and his wife and all these things. Like the man did everything right, except that he didn't lock up his wife against a radiator when he went outside, which would have been unacceptable in any regard from various people. Yeah, my wife tries to kill the kids the second her back was turned. Well, why didn't you institutionalize her? Well, I can't. Like the fact is that it was inevitable. It needs to be punished under the full law, and it quite frankly needs to be punished publicly because of the social contagion it's revealing, and a lot more women need to be beaten. That's it. That's my whole point on it. I'm like it's like why are you becoming why are you going to school for the things you're going to school for? Honestly, it's just for the boys. It's just for the men, for the men in my life and the men around me. As much as I love good, godly women and I love them dearly, and they're exempt from all I'm saying, uh, we're falling apart as a society. We can't even defend ourselves in most states. Like, what are we supposed to do here? Like, I'm gonna crash out about this. Like I can't take blood vengeance for my brother. And I can't do it because I'm Christian, but also I can't do it because the person responsible for it is too powerful. Like these things are eternal problems, but at the same time, we didn't have the problem 50 years ago. We didn't have abortion 60 years ago. We didn't have this, that. We didn't have the same problems of crime that we had 60 years ago. We have flock cameras, which are being used to hound a 30 old man who picked up $30 off the ground in a store or whatever the cameras were. Oh, I'm going to press charges. That sounds like the person who dropped the $30 has skin that's a few shades darker than white and a mindset so minuscule and criminal that they couldn't even pass the marshmallow test because they eat the marshmallow the second the scientists put it on the plate. I it's disgusting to me. Like I'd rather work on the night stories and all this stuff to it than face the world as it is because I'm tired of it. The it's maybe it's just because I'm tired because I'm coming off this sickness and I'm dealing with family tragedy like this and that, and I have to go back home to take care of them. Which I'm glad to do in God. But like the thing is that like we're supposed to live for things and be things and do things and live godly lives. But then it's like you look over and it's like this, a woman wishing she could kill her kids. I wish she could be beaten in the street with rods. See how she changes her tune after that. If there's no consequences for actions, then the only consequence for actions is the ones that prevent other people from having consequences. And what that does is it creates the destruction in society that we are seeing now. I don't want to talk about the reasoning for it anymore. We all know. We all know the reasoning for it from the beginning to the end. And it's not the godly women in our lives. It's not the godly rulers. It's not what God puts over us. It's everyone else who are doing the things that destroy what we need. Excuse me, to have a functioning society. A godly society also.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, yeah, no, all makes sense to me. Look, I get, I understand the concern. It's just like I think that the whole trial. I'm trying to think
The
of how to
trial is
put
a
this
circus. I'm
exactly.
not saying it's a good thing. I'm just
Yeah,
saying
I think the whole thing is everything about it is wrong. Is the way I would describe it. Like
yeah.
nothing about the way that the situation from the beginning to now has been run correctly. Even if you go like, okay, well, she needs to be executed, right? Well, even if we grant this, like in a healthy society or in a society where you're trying to make this point to people that like this is never acceptable, she'd be immediately executed. Well, that's kind of the point, though, isn't it? She would be immediately executed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, instead, we have like the circus, and nobody is arguing the correct things anymore. Like, you and I are having a totally different discussion than everybody else who's following this trial as if it's some sort of true crime drama, right?
Right.
Like, we're discussing entirely different things here. I'm going like, okay, because for one thing, we're immediately granting the premise here, right? Like,
Right.
well, so obviously this is, satanically evil, right?
Yes.
So, okay, we've granted that. But then we're also granting the premise like, well, abortion is also evil, right? And then
Yep.
we're also granting the premise that's like, well, the state is running this, right? Like, the state is evil, right? And then
Yep.
meanwhile, everybody watching this trial is like trying to take sides, like it's some sort of team, you know,
Right.
when it's disgusting. And it's like, that's not what's going on here at all. Like at the very least, what you and I are having is the real conversation.
Yep.
Like what do we really need to even be talking about here? Like obviously the woman is guilty of killing her kid. She's not even denying it herself.
Yep.
Like so the question then needs to be like, okay, so then what's the proper thing to do about it? And then you go like, well, is the proper thing to kill her to make an example, or is it because like two old people to account, or maybe it should be all of the above? But this is not something that we should be gawking at like it's a media circus. There is no circus this trial. This is not one of the fun trials, right?
Right.
um and that sounds weird, but I mean it. Like, Depp heard, right?
Casey Anthony.
Yeah, even Depp Heard was a fun trial. One of the reasons it's a fun trial is like in the end, yes, Johnny Depp was abused, right?
Oh, that one. I
That
thought
one,
it was
yeah,
some dude
the
called
celebrity
Depp
trial.
and her. Yeah, 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 yeah.
No,
That
no, no.
was pretty funny.
Right, like yeah, Johnny Depp was abused. He was definitely the victim in that situation. But in the end, you're watching a trial that's kind of like almost optimistic, right? Like the good
Right.
guy won.
Right.
in one hit in one case, and it's also like, Johnny Depp is alive. He was already out of the relationship,
Yep.
right? That everybody is rich. It's like, yeah, it's a great thing that Depp won, and he absolutely deserved it, and I am glad that he's getting his career back.
Yep.
But at the same time, it's like I can understand like enjoying that trial. I can even understand enjoying true crime to an extent. Like I'm not saying true crime's wrong to enjoy, right? Like there is definitely um even in a dark way, entertainment value in some forms of true crime, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I get it, right? That's not my point, really. My point is that it's being treated as if it's like a novel or a Netflix show or whatever, or it's
Yep.
a thing where we need to be taking sides, where it's like, no, this is not, this is a tragedy, is
Yep.
what we're watching, right? In real time. And we need to figure out what the societally correct way to handle the tragedy is. And you have to have this conversation like a fucking adult.
Right.
Like you need to have the conversation about the real things that we're staring at in front of us, instead of being like, oh, if I meet a guy and he says he's not on Clancy's side at a date, then I'm gonna end the date. Like what the fuck are you talking about? Children were murdered.
Right.
Like they were thrown out a fucking window. Like you're gonna use it to vet people on a date.
It's
Like,
like jokes
who
on
do you
her.
think
I've
you
already
even
snuck
are?
out the back, and she ordered lobster.
It's
Oh.
it's
Yeah.
so
No. It's
disturbing. It's so cartoonish.
yeah.
And now I'm ranting myself a little bit, but I think this isn't. I'm like, I don't know if I agree with you or not on like the larger point, but the very fact that this is a discussion is like so awful
Yeah.
that it's kind of upsetting, right?
Well,
Like
it's like
it's
the
so
part of
upsetting.
and I did say it was a variety show, but it's like part of the reason I'm letting this go on is it's because it does contrast with the nightly stuff we were talking about earlier. Compare it to things like Lancelot and Guinevere. Guinevere seemed to be barren because Lancelot and Arthur both had kids. But at the same time, do you think Guinevere would abort a child by Lancelot? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If Arthur ran a dry spell with Guinevere for 40 years or however long their marriage was, 30 years, I think he would notice. It's like, no, these heroic characters would not do this evil stuff would not do all this wickedness. They would not even uh, uh, assess it. Like, yeah, sure, Morgana Le Fay would probably be like, oh, you kill kids and you don't even get any magical benefits from it. You're cavorting with demons, right? Like you're making the deals, right? That's why you kill the kids. Uh, or Morgause would probably say something like that. But actual like just abortion, no. Like it's a cruelty of this modern world that we have to the face that we have to live in. People talk about dystopias all the time, but it's like actually, the real dystopia was at home the whole time. We
The
have
real
McDonald.
dystopia was the friends we made along the way.
I actually experienced that, and leaving that dystopia was pretty great. You can always leave the dystopia. Never forget. Never forget. Even though it sucks, but it's like this thing. If I was dating somebody, and she's like, I'm pro, this household is pro Lindsay Clancy, I'd be like, cool. You could do that somewhere else.
I mean, like, if I were dating somebody who said something like that, then I wouldn't be dating them for like, because even in my estimations, like, what do you mean pro Lindsay Clancy? What the fuck? What? Like, I wouldn't be dating them for very long.
Yeah, like it's like, what can you do with that? Nothing, because this woman's like, yeah, we can kill our kids. It's like dating somebody pro-abortion. uh, you know, uh, more than whatever the social norms are, because women have problems with social norms. Absolutely not. This is unacceptable. Either
Yeah,
you
that
accept
that
my,
would be an immediate deal breaker for me too, for sure.
yeah. It's like, no, we're going to talk about this. We're going to figure it out. Do you actually understand what you are advocating for? Yeah, I'm supporting abortion anyway. Okay, well, bye.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
it was. Uh, Frankly, I can't even imagine myself like ever going out with somebody who I thought might be in favor of abortion. It just wouldn't. It would be like, no, uh, no, it couldn't happen. I couldn't imagine it.
yeah,
It's
it,
too
it
disgusting.
it is. It's it's what we're talking about. Like, is there a knightly? Is there a heroic point to all this? Are we just stuck, with this evil shit all everywhere? We discussed evil men like King Mark. Um, I do count him as an evil king, not quite the same as like King Riance or Nero or Lot, but it's he's in the villainous mode. But it's like, is there an answer to this? No, not really. Not in a societal kind of way. You know, one of the things I'm going to be writing, my school papers about is actually the ordering of society, and um, how because we do not have a properly ordered society before God, and I mean in a hierarchical term, where we used to have noble landowners who were individually capable and responsible, to varying degrees of success, but they were generally capable and responsible of teaching their kids the Bible, bringing them to to drink at the well of salvation, to handle these things that today cause us so many issues, without any recourse. That those days are dead. They are super dead, and we haven't compensated for them. In the end, like, I'm not getting Catholic over here, but in the end, quite frankly, the layman is no longer capable in his mass, not all people, to handle things like scripture and studying the Bible and stuff like that. Maybe you would say, oh, he never really was, but no, he was. Like, when pretty much everyone has a similar education, can read Latin, or at the very least could read books for comprehension, and did read, you did have it. But now that it's lost, it's kind of like, what's the point? How can we bring ourselves back to an ordering? of society without destroying everything in a bloody civil war that will, quite frankly, get everyone, at least that'll get a lot of people killed. You know, and I'm not just talking about soldiers ramping down the street. I mean, when law and order breaks down, you know, and vigilante justice becomes the rule. You know, like there's all these things that, you know, could happen when society breaks down. People forget how much violence there was during the Civil War. People talk about Antietam and Gettysburg. Well, there were also riots and violence in just about every border city, and Missouri almost tore itself apart several times during the Civil War. And that's not counting the years and years of quasi Civil War in bleeding Kansas and bleeding Missouri, uh, you know, which killed many thousands of people. You know, like there's a lot of these, like, you know, not to moralize or anything like that, but like fundamentally, there does have to be duty and responsibility, you know, from God to the man, to the wife, to the kids. From God to the pastor, to the man, to the wife, to the kids, from God to the man, sorry, from God to the pastor, to the elders who are all family men. Sorry, Anthony, you know, but it's you know, like there's duties and responsibilities, a great chain of being, very medieval term there,
Mm-hmm.
that fundamentally needs to be respected, to be brought in, and to be the conqueror of these things. And we don't have it, and we won't have it. And until then, corporal punishment is the only acceptable answer, which means violence. It means death, and it means being uncomfortable with a woman screaming as she's being beaten. And by the way, I have so much worse for the criminal underbelly, which is, of course, mostly men. You know, I fully like it's like, look, if you don't have a morality that you can articulate, other than he stepped to me, he disrespected my Jordans, bro. You know, guess what? Somebody's head is going to be put on a pike with a placard that says "didn't have enough Riz." Uh, or something like that. Lost a looks maxing competition. Oh no, I'm just joking. Actually, it should say 30 felonies. Uh, you know, and then there's another one next to it that says 20 felonies, and there's another one next to it that just says one felony. And then maybe we'll get society to be put back on track. I don't see, unless God sends a revival to all the nations that are in America right now, you know, as in the next 5 years, something happens that brings all these different people into communion with Him. You know, quite frankly, there's not a lot of hope for what's going to happen. And the best you can do is sort of like take care of yourself, make yourself the better man.
Yeah. Uh, I think that's a good spot to end it. I will
Yep,
say it's a variety show, guys. I did
it's a
want to
variety
mention other
show.
cool stuff that I was listening to. So this is purely for fun. It's entirely off topic. So
Do it.
if you're done with the show, you can all leave. But so every now and then I get into something ironically, and then I actually start to enjoy it, and then I'm no longer into it ironically. The
This guy.
Hillbilly Thomists were one such thing. They're a group of Dominican priests who sing bluegrass. And at first I was like, haha, wow, that's wacky. And I was like downloading albums and things. Yeah. Uh, the next one though
Ironically, we
was
understand.
yes. The next thing though was barbershop. So barbershop quartets, quartet singing. Um, there is a YouTube channel and for the Barbershop Harmony Society, which has been in existence since 1939. And every year they run the most prestigious barbershop competition in the world, the International Quartet Championships. Uh, right. And this is one of those things where, like, a clip went viral on YouTube. What's the state of the Superversive? I'm talking about something important, Mazen Kaiser. Thank you very much. How dare
Bad.
you
We're
interrupt
basically
me?
dead. There's just
We
us
are the superversive movement. You are superversive. Uh
for being here.
yes. Anyway. No, really, like we actually are the superversive movement at this point,
Yeah.
but that yeah. Anyway, how dare you, sir or ma'am? I don't know which. Um no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, that's a fair question. It's we're pretty much it. If it's not dead, it's not dead because of us. So
Yep.
woohoo. Anyway, uh, going back to what I was saying. So, barbershop, which is quartet singing in four-part harmony, and they've had a national international competition since, or at least like the big competition since 1939, where the Bartlesby Barflies won the first ever international quartet championships. I found them when like a clip went viral of a group called the Newfangled Four. Uh, and the Newfangled Four are the most popular barbershop group in the world and the only one that has achieved any form of virality. Like they have some videos on YouTube with a few million views, you know.
Wow.
Um, but even them, you can get tickets to their shows for like $30.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and they are the most popular in the world. So the most recent international quartet championships just occurred, which is great because they always put out the Barbershop Harmony Society's YouTube channel is fantastic. I actually really like them because they always put out anytime there's a major competition. A few weeks later, they release really well curated videos of like, you know, with good camera work where they show the performances in the competition. Uh, Newfangled Four finished in sixth place. They have never won, and they've been doing it for over a decade. So it's now been so long that's become a topic of parody in their songs.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, the rule of the competition is once you win, you actually can't compete again. You as a performer can form a new group and compete, and this has happened a few times. Where people have won more than once with different groups. But your group can't. It needs to be no more than two people in the new group.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so why am I bringing all of this up? All of this is to say, number one, you should give Barbershop a shot because it's actually, if you like a cappella singing, they have some really good stuff. The Newfangled Four are the funniest and they're great, but they're all good. Check out the videos of the most recent 2026 International Quartet Championships. Uh, yeah, this was so in 2022 they allowed women into the competition for the first time in
Woke.
remember, in a competition that started in 1939, there was like a girls division, which were called the Sweet Adelines, I think. Uh,
Sweet Adelaide.
yes,
I love
um,
the names.
yes.
Every
Uh,
name has been a banger.
they had a girls division, and like so, women would win the girls division, but they wouldn't compete in the main international quartet championships until recently. And this year, the first ever female group won the International Quartet Championships. And you know what? I'm just going to say it. I don't think it was a woke thing. I think they were really good. GQ, girls quartet. I'm going
Wow.
to see them. They're $15 and they're going to be like a couple hours away from me.
You
You could
taking
see
the
the
wife?
number one barbershop quartet in the world for $15. Yeah.
I love your
That,
average side quest, Anthony.
Yes. Lemon Squeezy, my wife is in the background going, Lemon Squeezy won last year with a parody of All American Prophet called Scandinavian Quartet, which was fucking hilarious. So, the All American Prophet is the opening song of Book of Mormon for people who don't know. Um,
Okay.
and it's them making it's like them cartoonishly giving a kind of cartoonish rendition of like how the Book of Mormon was written. It's a kind of funny song. I try not to talk too much about Book of Mormon because I don't respect them. But um anyway, they did a parody of it called Scandinavian Quartet because Lemon Squeezy is Scandinavian. About how the founder of Barbershop flew a tablet of gold, flew the sauce to Scandinavia and gave the secret of the sauce to Lemon Squeezy to bring it to the modern day to be the Scandinavian quartet that would win the championship. It was
Amazing.
pretty great. Uh, Newfangled Four did parodies of All Star. That was the one that went super viral. Is the parody of All Star. Uh, they also have an incredible parody of the song Love. So if you know that song, it's like an old fashioned song where you spell out the words to love. Um, and instead of doing the song Love, they tried to do it where they would spell out all of the letters to their name, but their name is the Newfangled Four. So they needed to have like 12 NEWFANGLEDFOUR 14 hats on stage that they were mixing and matching throughout it as they were getting it wrong and like doing stuff. It's fantastic. Uh there's really nothing else here except like I think it's fun. I think that Ben and I should start a barbershop quartet called Pinkerton's Notes.
I'm in.
My wife wants to do it. There you go.
The name is pristine.
Yeah. This will go on the back burner. This is it's a long form project, but one day.
Right. Do 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 do. Werewolf in the kitchen, vampire in the hall. Gonna stab both of them because they're eating children.
We're gonna be the first ever horror quartet. There are comedy quartets, but there are no
Right.
horror quartets.
Nevermore, nevermore, nevermore. Quoth
Amazing.
the raven, nevermore. There you go. I've practically written all the songs already.
Yeah, no, they're pretty much done.
Yeah. As am I. Yeah.
Bless you.
The stuff with Lindsay Clancy gets me mad because it's like it's just another thing. It's just another break in the wall. Montresor, for the love of God.
I will sing you
Yes,
off with this
for the
video I
love
found
of
of a dude
God.
who takes Twitter comments of people rewriting the lyrics to songs and then sings them over a piano.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm not going to risk copyright infringement, Anthony.
Let me show you what I learned in my own jujitsu class. In other words,